Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Try Line in partnership with SOCS. I'm Russ McCluskey. He's Phil Greenaway. We're little and large. Mate, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday lunchtime. It's a smidge after 12 o'clock. I am recording live from KCS Old Boys, a level 7 community rugby club steeped in history. We just love the rugby, don't we, mate? And I'm still buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing from the weekend just gone. Bristol Grammar against Collegiate, our debut, SOCS TV's live stream debut. Mate, what a day that was.
Oh, mate, utterly incredible, wasn't it? I mean, from start to finish, the buzz around BGS, from turning up in the morning, watching a bit of the under-13s and seeing everything unfold up there. You know, some game of rugby, really, a local derby, loads of parents there watching, some great rugby on show, a hat-trick. Last minute worldie of a try to draw against the Collegiate side that had looked on top for the majority of the game. And, you know, hopefully everybody enjoyed the live stream. Hopefully not too many people put it to silent whilst we were talking and just watched the rugby. But yeah, an incredible weekend. And that leads us into this weekend coming, which is going to be our second rollout of the SOCS TV live stream, which will be Abingdon versus Eton, and we cannot wait to get up there for that. I can't wait so much that I've given up a ticket to watch England versus the All Blacks on Saturday because I'd rather be in Abingdon.
I'm going to be honest with you, mate. You are going to get the better game. Abingdon Eton is going to be a better game. Just to talk about that, because it's very interesting. We've mentioned it a bit before because we had Goldie, who's director of rugby at Abingdon, on the pod a few weeks ago, and they've gone with the home and away, haven't they? So the previous fixture, which was at Eton, Abingdon won 31-26. So it's a one-score game. So much to play for. So exciting. I mean, we talk about games of the weekend all the time, don't we, on this pod? And how lucky were we that on Saturday we were probably at one of the games of the weekend, if not the game of the weekend. 38 all, Bristol Grammar scoring in the very last play, converting it under the posts to get 38 all after Collegiate looked to have cleared their lines, didn't they, mate? It was just classic schoolboy rugby. It's a great kick downfield, brilliant positioning from the winger who managed to get back down there. He immediately found the pace. A young lad called Queller. He immediately found the pace, their fullback, who just went the length of the field, beating 8, maybe 10, maybe 12, who knows, defenders. But looking forward, mate, I mean, 31-26, Abingdon potentially go into this Saturday's game as favourites, having won over at Eton. They've had a brilliant season so far, and I know that Matt is feeling quietly confident about that game. But, mate, just super excited. Can't wait to get to Oxfordshire on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. And, you know, look, the weather's turned. You know, what part is that going to play? I know that Abingdon have played a nice open style of rugby for the majority of the season, but what part is that going to play in the fixture this weekend? The potential downpour that we're going to be exposed to on Saturday as commentators. But, you know, and how much have Eton changed their game, you know, in the last sort of, 6 weeks since they last played. So it's going to be a fascinating fixture, but also, you know, it does really highlight the excitement around that sort of return block fixture, which I think lots of schools are beginning to talk about. And Matt Gold spoke so passionately about on the pod with us.
He did indeed, mate. He did indeed. And I think, like you say, there's a lot to be said about it. It builds up that rivalry, doesn't it? And that's what the Daily Mail Trophy does so well, the Merit League table that gives these Saturday block fixtures just a little bit of extra edge and a little bit more to play for. And if we do just cast our eye to the table, Sedbergh are top of the shops after a brilliant win against Warwick, an absolute powerhouse of the Midlands. Warwick School have been for eternity. I remember going to see them in a cup final at Twickenham when I started out my teaching career. So a fantastic win for the Sedbergh boys there. So Tommy Riches, again, we're speaking about them. I don't know if anybody who's got a connection at all to Sir Thomas Riches' school listens to the pod, sees our Instagram. I don't know. Please. We'd love to speak to somebody over there. Currently sitting in second. Northampton School for Boys third. St Benedict's, Zoran and Colesey's St Benedict's Ealing still in fourth. And we've got Wellington College in fifth. Looking a little bit further down the table, though, just sneaking up on the rails. Somebody you mentioned, somebody we know really well, in an 8th position, Epsom College, mate. Going great guns, aren't they, with Berkey over there?
Yeah, they're a great rugby school, aren't they, with a great rugby tradition down in Epsom. And we talk about a lot about tradition. And they had a brilliant win at home last weekend against Cranley, 28-12. And we know that Cranley have been tearing up some trees this term. So that's a great fixture, a win for them. Yeah, Epsom will be there or thereabouts come the end of the season for sure. And just moving to the other one, we obviously had, we're lucky enough to have Matt Salter and Danny Krukok on last week to talk about the Welly versus Clifton game, and Welly, you just mentioned them then in the top echelons of the table, going down 17-18. What Matt Salter described as a great game of schoolboy rugby, and one that could have gone either way. And they were confident going out there that they would get the win, and they just about snuck over the line with a bit of old school. They kicked some penalties in the game, Russ.
Just build the score, build the score. I remember an England team doing that well for years and years and years with a certain Johnny Wilkinson. Just keep that scoreboard ticking over 3, 6, 9, 12. It's not the worst at all. And then we're looking at Sir Thomas Ritchie's. They played one of the local grammar schools, very well-known grammar school in the Gloucester area, Pates Grammar. And they had a very comfortable win, 47-14. But actually, they had 2 games in 3 days there. They'd snuck in a cup game earlier on in the week. So a big, big workload for them there. And they have got, coming up, they'll have Cheltenham College down the line for Sir Thomas Ritchie's there. But like I say, anybody from the school, please reach out to us. We'd love a few words with you on that front. And then if we move ourselves to Northampton School for Boys, they've been very busy in cup competitions. They're under 15s going super, super well. They have got Northampton School for Boys, Warwick School coming up on the weekend. So Warwick, having played Sedbergh, had a good game against them. They've got another top 3 team. It just doesn't get any easier for a lot of these schools. And I know we sound like a broken record, but often these big schools are just playing big schools, aren't they? It's big dog against big dog, mate.
Yeah, and that's why we're shining the light on this league, aren't we? Because, it's not just the cup finals at the end of the year. It's not just Roslyn Park. These fixtures are happening, week in, week out across the country. And I've just listed some fixtures, from this weekend that, are really exciting, with Kings Worcester versus Kings Gloucester, Rugby versus Uppingham, Warwick School versus NSB. The fixtures just keep on coming. And Warwick, again, great rugby tradition. They run a great programme there. They always have been in and amongst it from the days when Mark Nasey was across there as, head of rugby, and now at Stamford. But they've got such great tradition, and that again will be a cracking game of rugby at Warwick. I'm not sure if that makes any difference with home away and advantage as we see the rugby circuit evolving, but that'll be a great game.
It's an interesting point you make there, mate, isn't it? That home and away piece used to be such an advantage, didn't it? For loads of reasons. You train on the pitch that you play on. Often that isn't the case. A lot of these pitches are almost kept as hallowed turf, aren't they? And you don't get a lot of time on it. Ground staff trying to keep them off. They're trying to look pristine, but it kind of plays into that whole marketing piece as well, doesn't it? If a travelling team comes to play you and your pitch is looking immaculate, but that can go against you as well. We found that a little bit at Kings. The first team pitch was redone. It was done to an amazing standard. It was in the centre of school. It was the only full-size rugby pitch in the centre of school. All other games at a certain age would have to go off-site. But we found that teams would get off the bus in the Ridgeway Coach Park and they'd feel, wow, this is incredible. The surrounding we're in with the pavilion, the balcony, everything like that. And sometimes I did wonder, actually, had we spent enough time training on it? Were we inspiring the opposition a bit too much? But you've got to back yourself at home, haven't you, mate? You really have.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you need to back yourself at home because everything is known to you. It's really easy those are the things within your control. Whereas, if you're traveling from, I don't know, Dulwich to Bedford and, the journey's not great, but then I think you can turn all that into positives because it means you get more time together as a squad, you bond as a squad on the journey. That's often dependent on some of the music that some of the lads are choosing to play across the bus. And there were certainly some tough days where we had to listen to some stuff that we didn't want to as staff, with some rap and some grind. But, I think, you've got to look for the positives in both of those situations. You either look for the positives, look with the home team. We know the track. We're in front of our crowd. We've got some old boys down watching for the weekend. We're going to inspire our 12s and 13s who are going to come across and be, ball boys. There's all of that side of things. Whereas if you're the away side, you've got to look at the positives there. Look, no one's expecting anything much from us here. We're on the road. Everything's against us. And when the chips are down, and that sort of blitz spirit can come out, can it? So, I think the quality of the coaching staff that are involved in the programs now will be very, very, very good at spinning that to suit what they needed to suit the narrative for that weekend in terms of the inspiration that group of pupils need. But you always love getting off a bus and seeing a pristine pitch. I mean, I remember going to Launceston away with an Exeter Chiefs side to play in the Cup, and totally the opposite. It was like, how the hell are we going to play rugby on this cabbage patch? Whereas if you get off the bus at somewhere like, a Harrow, where the pitches are absolutely sensational. If you're away at Harrow, what a day to produce your best rugby performance as a young 18-year-old kid.
And we had a pitch at the school I went to, and granted, it was a state grammar school up in Derbyshire, nicknamed the Eiger. And you can imagine the slope on it. Laser levelling were not two words ever used in Derbyshire, I don't think, in the Peak District. You needed your crampons. And then just on the music, I was very fortunate that a first 15 cohort I coached at King's didn't mind a little bit of Fatboy Slim and a little bit of house from time to time, so my ears weren't bleeding. And then just talking about King's, they travelled away to Hurstpier Point down on the south coast. That would probably, and I think it still is, the longest journey they have to do for a rugby fixture out of southwest London, and 34-33 to remain in 7th position. I mean, it was an absolute humdinger by all accounts. Spoke to a couple of the lads, a couple of the staff. I mean, what a game that has been. And having coached those boys earlier on in their time at the school, it was always teed up to be a belter, and it's delivered. And I think what we're seeing, mate, and we're just continuing to see very close first 15 fixtures at that top end. Now, we're honest, and they're not representative potentially of a great block. It might be the only fixture within a block that is tight and is close, and sometimes that's life, and you just have to accept that. But and this Daily Mail Trophy this year, it seems time and time again, these are one-score games. And as we saw on the weekend, the one we were commentating on, to finish in a draw was just remarkable. Although one team felt like they'd won it and one team felt like they'd lost it, no doubt in my mind. And we're going into this weekend's one, and it's so evenly poised. We're hoping again for another tight game. Just the standard, mate. The standard of rugby going on at the moment, week in, week out, at first team level, is something to behold.
Yeah, and I think it's why, again, why the Daily Mail Trophy, and why shining the light on a brilliant programme and all the brilliant work that people are doing is so, so important. I mean, St Benedict's Ealing, up there in 4th place in the league and playing some outstanding rugby. There are close games, left, right and centre. I mean, I look for the results on a Saturday evening and on a Sunday, and there are so many out there that are surprises as well. You can't predict every result in the competition. It's that tight between those top schools, and whatever that comes down to, whether that be player availability or whatever it might be, there are some absolutely cracking fixtures out there. And it means the boys are being tested. It means their skill levels are being tested under pressure. It means that their tactical appreciation for the game is being tested under pressure. And one of the things that I really took away from the weekend at BGS collegiate game was, it didn't seem to be that many breaks in play either. The game flowed, and no wonder there were boys cramping up on 65 minutes, because you haven't got a bomb squad or a pom squad coming on the pitch to relieve you. There aren't TMO reviews going on left, right and centre, which means you can catch your breath out. These kids were absolutely pedal to the metal for the best part of 75, 80 minutes with the extra time and the other bits and pieces that sort of happened in the games. Their fitness levels are incredible, and they are genuinely being tested across the board. And to see that kick at the end, and how collegiate, how might have they have done that differently? Might have they have just gone to the sort of short pick and go, seen out that last 20 seconds and then kicked the ball off the park? Is that something they'll have spoken about after the game? Or kick long because, they wanted to clear their lines, build the pressure and force a turnover because BGS hadn't looked like going the length for the whole game. So, it's fascinating. And I do think that sometimes we undervalue the real standard of that rugby. And, front rowers going for a full 70 minutes at under 18 rugby. The scrums aren't easy, as we saw that BGS pack were under a lot of pressure from the collegiate pack. So, that was one thing from watching that game. I took that away and thought, these guys are absolutely giving their all, and they're out on their feet at the end of the game. So that's maybe why we're getting those tight games. Maybe we're getting those one-score games because of reasons, such as that, as well as just the quality and the standard of the rugby.
Yeah, there's a couple of points there I want to make, mate. And again, I don't know if I've got this exactly right, but ball in play, time in play at an international level. Am I right in saying that it's something like 35 minutes or something like that? Am I right in saying that? And it really did feel on Saturday, that 70-minute game, the ball was just in play, loads and loads and loads. If it goes out for a line out, it's back in, the lads are set, the hooker's got it in his hands by nature, all those bits and pieces. But closing out games, I remember one a few years ago away at Marlborough, and we were 17-12 up, and it was like the dying moments. Myself and Rog, who was the head of rugby at the time, and we were on the ones. I don't think we'd worked on closing out a game if it was tight. We hadn't spoken about it in training. but the lads just automatically went into it. We were deep in our own half, and they went short carries off 9. They tightened up. It was very much like Munster had before and like the All Blacks had before. And it's stuff they'd seen on TV. And I think, like, if there's a message here for any lads listening to this podcast or any parents listening to it, watch rugby. Watch as much rugby as you can watch, whether you digest it in a highlights package on YouTube or whether you watch a full 80-minute game, because those are the things you'll pick up. And we did see that game out. Eventually, they kept asking the referee what the time was, and they kicked the lever off it into the boarding houses at Marlborough, which was amazing. Just looking at Campion, a school we've mentioned a little bit, and again, they'd be one we'd really love to get on the Beyond the Tryline podcast. They had a shutout of the Judd, a school I know super, super well down in Kent, 43-0. And as a coach, sometimes you're going to be so much more happy with that 0, aren't you? You're going to think our defensive system was in place. We made all our tackles, because you can let it go. Once you're 40 points up, your mindset can change. You can make the substitutions. You can drift off a wee bit and maybe concede a couple of cheap ones. And that can easily be 43-14. But a 43-0 always tastes a little bit sweeter, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And fair play to those lads for sort of concentrating for that amount of time and seeing them over the line. And, I was listening to the good, the bad, and the rugby this week, and the comment that, defence wins championships, it doesn't lie, does it? But great to see. I think, what we've noticed is a real attack intent from everybody. So, that try bonus point and the losing bonus points that come into being part of the league, that sides are still chasing that 4 try bonus point, come the end of the game. And are you seeing mistakes at the end of the game and allowing the other team in for a try at the end of the game, as well as going after that losing bonus point? So there's always something on the game. There's always something in there. And you look at Sebra at the top of the table with 7 try bonus points from 8 games. And so Tommy Rich is in behind with 8 try bonus points from 9 games and the losing bonus points. So those margins at that level, we talk about it in the Premiership or in the Six Nations or whatever competition it is, they exist here as well. And I'll tell you the other thing that, maybe those listening to us on Saturday, maybe they got a sense of just how the ball was in play for that amount of time, because it felt like we didn't get a breather. It felt like we didn't get a breath at all. There was no time for me to go and have a cup of tea and visit the toilet, which I definitely needed towards the end of the game. But the ball in play time was fantastic. And like you said, there's just literally, they catch the ball, in the touchline. We saw a number of quick lineouts with Collegiate trying to speed the game up. So, the brand of rugby that's on show and the ball in play time was electric.
It's going to be an awesome weekend, isn't it? Not just at Abingdon for Abingdon Eton, but it's going to be an awesome weekend everywhere we're looking. The weather is turning a wee bit, even though I'm recording live on the balcony at KCS Old Boys right now and the sun is out. It's awesome. I'm making the most of the last dribbles of vitamin D this year, if you like. But just a reminder that this weekend marks our second Daily Mail Trophy fixture to be streamed live on the brand new schoolsrugby.tv platform, brought to you by SOCS. They've always been deeply invested in supporting school sport, and anybody listening to this will be well aware of SOCS, the brand, and its capability and what everybody in school sport uses it for. We've got Abingdon against Eton kicking off at 2:30, so definitely one to tune in for. And it's just in a series of matches this half term where we're going to be shining a light and a spotlight on celebrating the brilliant talent and passion in schools rugby. We'll be back on commentary. We'll be back on the comms in a John Motson style, in an Eddie Butler style, with the microphone, the full kit and caboodle. And we've got work-ons. We've got targets, haven't we, mate? We've certainly reflected on it. I have not listened to it back, and I certainly won't listen to it back. I have to listen back to this to edit it. That's enough for me. But yeah, we're super excited, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to sort of, get up there and see that brand of rugby. You talk about the quality of pitch. I think the quality of pitch at Abingdon is as good as there is out there. Fantastic surface that they play on up there. A local derby against Eton. And it'd be really interesting to see how those Eton boys travel. And, we've got two really, really good schools going to each other. We know Matt Gold really, really well. And we know Nico at Eton really, really well. It's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be a great occasion. And it's going to be a great fixture. And, unlike last week, I'm not sure if I want to predict a winner this week.
I'm certainly not going to. 31-26 last time, I'm not going to. But it's great to be back with Beyond the Tryline again. And like I say, if you're listening to this and you fancy coming on, talking about your rugby programme, and even better than actually talking about some of the opposition that you've played against and shining a light on the other schools on your circuit, we'd love to have you on. So reach out on Instagram, reach out on LinkedIn, or just send us an email. No problem at all. Phil, I will see you in the ID3 on Saturday. All set. Please bring the biltong again, mate.
Yeah, can't wait, mate. Don't worry, I've got some biltong lined up for you, and I'll save the cinnamon bun for myself along the way. But mate, really excited. Thanks very much to everyone for supporting. Please do like and subscribe to the pod. Please do share it with your parent groups, with your pupils, and get it out there. And if there's any boys out there you believe deserve a mention, if we want to get a pupil on the pod and talk about what the Daily Mail Trophy means for them, please do suggest somebody. But we're super excited about Saturday. He's been large, I've been little. Like and subscribe. Share the pod as best you possibly can. And best of luck to everybody out there playing this weekend. And we'll see you this time next week.